Hey there, friends. It's Shay back with another episode of Podbean Amplified. I have my co-host here, marketing director, podcaster extraordinaire at this point because we're on episode 8. Jared, what's up?
Man, we're Ocho. Ocho.
Episode 8. 8 is great, and we're getting to it. Actually, last week we had our first live webinar, something that we're going to be doing once a month at 5:30, probably the last Thursday of the month, I would say. But you'll have the entire time to sign up. If you check online or any link in the bios that we have on our social media pages, you'll be able to sign up for the live webinar. If you missed it, that's unfortunate because we talked about ways that you can make money. Definitely go back to our YouTube channel. We have the live stream up on there. And just take some notes because there's a lot of information, PowerPoint presentation. And Mark is our VP of sales. He blessed us with this wonderful PowerPoint presentation, and he explained every single way that you could possibly make money with podcasting.
Make sure you guys go recap. And honestly, every month we're going to be doing these guys free. And it's just tips to help you, right? I don't want to harp on this point, but master classes are out. Because why? Because we said they're out. Free. Come join us. We'll help you. We don't need you to sign up for a monthly subscription unless you use Podbean. But this is this giving back. So we would love to see you on the next one. Follow us on our socials, follow us on the website, and we'll make sure that we get you the information on the next one.
I definitely hope to see you guys there. Maybe ask some questions, voice your opinions. Speaking of opinions, Jared, there is somebody in the sports world that is very opinionated. And I don't even want to explain this viral topic. I'm going to have Mr. Stephen A. Smith explain it for us.
Dad is a defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. You go into his laptop computer and find a number for Shedeur Sanders. You prank call him. First of all, it was cruel and it was classless to Shedeur. It jeopardized your dad. What if the Atlanta Falcons didn't believe it was your dad, that it was just you? What if they had believed it was him? And I don't believe that for 1 second. I don't believe the defensive coordinator for the Falcons. I don't believe that man did. I don't believe he had anything to do with this. I think it would be unfair to accuse him of that. But what if the Falcons didn't believe him? What if the NFL didn't believe him? Your dad could have lost his job.
I'd have been hot.
And because you want to you want to prank somebody, okay, and be cruel and insensitive, knowing what Shedeur must have been going through, you would be some privileged little brat that would do something like that and take joy out of somebody's misery like that.
So for those of you who don't know or keep up with the NFL draft, it just ended, actually maybe like a week ago, last Saturday. Shedeur Sanders, bless that kid. He got just blackballed. Is that what they call it?
He got some Kaepernick treatment. A tad, I would say. I don't
Projected to be drafted in the first round, had to wait until the 5th, only to take Ohio State quarterback's spot when he was like, I'm going to just retire. Like, not the Browns, not here. So just going on that, I feel for him. I've watched him play in college. And so, you know, there's only so much that you can know about a person by seeing them on screen. But seeing the way he moves, the way he respects his peers, respects his coaches, even in interviews, always sticking up for what is right and just being such a humble human being. It's so unfortunate that this young little kid, Stephen A. Smith, I knew he was loading up for another B word, but he called him a brat. So let's call him a brat boy. But if you don't know who Jeff Ulbrich is, I'm a Jets fan. And so it kind of hits a little closer to home. He is a coach for the Falcons. He was a coach for the Falcons, went to the Jets, interim head coach, defensive coordinator, yada, 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 went back to the Falcons. The reason why I'm saying this is because had he not had a long-standing relationship with the Falcons, I'm sure he would have been gone.
Yeah. I remember him when he played. So that's like the sad part. Again, we spoke on this last week. This culture we're in is just, it's a bait and prank, clickbait views, shock jock type of content, man. It sucks, dude. Like, and the fines just came in today, right? So the dad got fined $100K, and I believe the Falcons got fined $150K. That's an expensive prank, man. For what? Like, granted, look, no matter where you stand on the side of how you see Shedeur Sanders, that's fine. That's the opinionated space that I think we all should share, and we should let people have their opinions, right? If you think he was as good as he was, if you think he wasn't, if you think he's too brash, you think he's too cocky, cool. If you think he shouldn't have fell into the fifth, that's fine. Why are you pranking this kid, man? And I seen it was so messed up because when he got the call, he's like smiling, like, because this is the number that no one should have, right? To only find out somehow some maniacal little brat, like you said, found his number and thought it wise to prank him. Yeah, it's messed up, man.
But it's not even the fact that, you know, because any kid can do it. I mean, I hate to say that. They can't anymore.
Yeah.
But this man is 21 years old. Let's not call him a kid.
Right.
He is in college.
Yeah.
He understands them. They're the same age.
Yeah.
How jealous are you? Let me call you out, boy.
Yeah. Serious.
How jealous?
Yeah.
What?
And then he has this watered down apology. So politics, like, you don't mean that. You had every intention of trying to hurt his feelings. Because again, the public perception is, they're very confident. You could look at it two ways, confident or cocky. You could say that's not allowable in NFL football, even though every single professional athlete that I've ever known has a little bravado. Sorry, guys, to let you know that. But cool, whatever the case is, man, I think he took it on the chin. Expensive prank. And if it was my son and I got fined $100K, that's coming out of his everything. College fund, bank savings. Yeah.
Shame on you.
Yeah.
And Jeff, lock your computer.
Truthfully, look, and then the Falcons released a statement too. And it was like, we are confident in our security protocols and we will continue to. I'm like, look, no, your security protocols aren't, like, because it was Jeff Ulbricht's fault. There's a folder wide open just laying on a counter, but also too, that kid had a maniacal little purpose to doing that. And so
he wouldn't expect his son, a 21-year-old, to do that.
You wouldn't think so. But again, the clickbait generation, we're on one, guys.
Who knows? Maybe he might go create a podcast now and just blow up because of that one situation. See?
He very much. How are the YouTubers and the TikTokers? They're blowing up because they're just doing stupid stuff like that. I mean, yeah.
Podcasting is speaking your voice. If you're unhinged, people want to listen. Sorry.
Jeff Ulbricht's son, come to Podbean, man. You know, we can make this work. No, I'm just.
Going into the highlight portion segment, I really want to talk about the why. A lot of people want to start a podcast, maybe because they see someone else do it, or maybe because it looks fun, but really dig down deep and ask yourself why. Just like any career or any life decision that you make, why do you want to do it? Do you want to make money? Do you want it as a side hustle? Do you want it to gain confidence or find your voice? Do you want to speak more fluently? Do you want to open up your vocabulary? Do you want to meet other people? These are all great questions that you should be asking yourself when starting your podcast, because if you don't have a why behind it, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to put it together. Obviously, here at Podbean, our motto is amplify your message. So what is your message? What do you want to talk about? And a lot of people will procrastinate on that sole question, not knowing that it's a question that's holding them back. So ask yourself why, and do it because.
I love it. Yeah. There's no good reason not to start a podcast, right? I think it's too easy to say no, right? And like, we're not here trying to like sleazily entice you to do something you don't want to do. So for those that are hearing this and they're just like, I would never, that's totally fine. I think a listening audience is, if you're just a listener, that's totally fine. But if you had any inkling of like interest of ever starting it, I love that. Ask yourselves those questions. Are you trying to, test your confidence within these markets, right? Like I've always wanted to start a podcast, but am I confident enough to do that? Podbean, you can start for free. You could try, right? Do you want it to become a secondary stream of revenue? You never know. If you joined us for our live webinar, you know that this could easily make you money. If you're consistent, if you build even a small base, right? If your engagement from any of the monetization methods that we spoke on from our live webinar, if your engagement rate from those places to even a small audience, it can garner you some revenue. So I agree. Yeah, amplify your message is our motto here at Podbean, and we really want to help you do that. But you have to ask yourself some of these very simple questions, and I think if you ask them truthfully, you'd be surprised the answer.
Alrighty, we're going to transition into my favorite segment, which is our guest segment. And, sometimes when you're having a hard day, you want to call your mom, but Miss Reena Friedman Watts says, "You better call daddy" in Better Call Daddy podcast. So let's welcome her.
Hey, welcome.
How are you doing
Thank
today?
you.
Thank you for joining us.
I love that creative intro. That was so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So obviously we want to know a little bit about you. So tell us about yourself, your podcast, and what made you start.
Yeah, so my dad is always who I call from a very young age. He has been my number one supporter, number one fan. He's always wanted to push me in front of the crowd. And as a kid, I always loved to perform. So I was putting on little performances for my parents and grandparents and getting applause for that and getting praise for that. And
Love it.
it's funny. I think that led to me like wanting to work in Hollywood. I mean, even from like kindergarten, I wrote a book imagining myself like living in a big mansion and moving to Hollywood. And I feel like Hollywood was so glamorized in my youth. And my grandfather actually did the lights on Broadway, and he shifted away from the performing arts and he ended up working in manufacturing. My parents and my grandparents ran a manufacturing company creating lights for about 40 plus years. And that entrepreneurship bug was definitely in my blood. I watched my dad run this factory with his father, talk to his father every day on the phone. I grew up in Kentucky, and my parents had me young, like people in Kentucky do. And my grandparents, all four of them, were alive, and I knew some of my great grandparents, and that was a big part of my story. I feel like I'm, a very family oriented person. And so that's really become part of my brand. And I ended up going to youth performing arts school for high school and kind of like finding my tribe. I love people that love music and performing and are creative types. And from there, I got a small scholarship, to a small school. And I ended up going to a small arts college in West Virginia and singing in choir. And honestly, like I feel like the high school that I went to was like harder than my college. And so I ended up transferring to a bigger school. But I think had I not started off at that smaller school, I wouldn't have had the confidence to then transfer to Purdue. And Purdue was like really groundbreaking for me because I got the opportunity to work at a radio station on campus.
Wow.
Which was, yeah, it was something that I really wanted to do. And I kind of just walked in there and was willing to take whatever shift was open. And this was pre-automation, so there was a lot of learning on the job, which I think is such a great opportunity. I also interned at a news station, and I kind of learned like what I liked doing, what I didn't like doing. And so I loaded the features. I got to, put on the kind of music I liked. If there was dead air, I got to rewrite the news stories that came off the AP Newswire. And I feel like my love of storytelling really began in college and at that job. So from there, I went to the alumni office on campus and got an interview at WGN in Chicago, and then I didn't get the job. But in the same courtyard, I saw a flyer that Jerry Springer was looking for interns, and this was a show that I grew up watching that was kind of something that everybody did at that time when they were cutting school or sick from school. And I remember calling my dad and just being like, "Hey, what do you think of me working there?" And he was like, "Yeah, he was for it." Okay. So that was just all the permission that I needed to just dive right in. Yeah. And again, working there is where I learned how to book real crazy stories.
I bet.
I love it.
That's awesome.
I love it. Jerry Springer, that brings back memories. He is like,
you're so young.
He's like very unhinged.
Yes.
You allow the crazy and the chaos. You let it, go for a longer period of time. More, they're like, break it up right now.
They started the stage kind of like entertainment, shock stuff. Yeah, for sure.
That was like real life.
Yeah.
Real, yeah. So,
and the bread and butter of that too was just like not complicated stories. It was just people were cheating. Like 90% of the stories were like,
drama. Yeah.
It was love triangles. So it was like, who do they want to be with, you know?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Just sitting there 6 years old, like,
What's going on?
you can have two baby daddies.
Right. The Ku Klux Klan.
Like,
False.
which one's the father?
Remember the one, the Ku Klux Klan guys were in there? I was like, oh, this is just you're wanting the biggest reaction ever. The ratings must have been through the roof. Yeah.
Oh, excuse
Oh
me.
my God. Yeah. To be honest, too, like I was straight out of college and kind of a small town girl and a little bit afraid of that. You know, I was being exposed to things I really felt uncomfortable with, but at
Right.
the same time was kind of like, this is crazy. I want to know more.
That's the audience. Yeah, that's why it blew up.
You're joking. Don't stop talking. But like, you're kidding me?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like that train wreck, right? Like you don't want to look, but you want to look.
That's awesome.
So obviously, when we are creators, we hit roadblocks sometimes, some challenges. Can you tell the audience some challenges that you faced as far as podcasting, maybe some things that you're working on to improve now?
I would say in the beginning, just like a lot of creators, you know, we have this perfectionism thing, and having worked in television, I was like, "Oh my God, like it needs to sound perfect, it needs to look perfect, it needs to be edited," and I edited it to death, where it sounded just way too choppy, and I would re-record bits, and yeah, like that's something I would even tell people, like, don't I think start less edited and just kind of develop in the process of doing it as you become more comfortable on the mic. But I tried to edit myself to death, and I cringe listening back to that. I've even thought about like maybe just re-releasing them unedited. And I think that there's some real beauty in the beginning of your creative process, like you're open to whoever like wants to give you the time of day.
Yeah.
Come on my show, like I'll talk to anyone. And then it's like you get bombarded by PR agencies and bad pitches, or somebody that just wants to sell their book or their course and all of these things. And you have to be more selective with your time and who you cover. And I think just go back to, you know, asking yourself about your why, and, you know, who is like gonna make a good segment is somebody that's like really part of your tribe, like really has the same values or has experienced something with you in time that nobody else has. So like I feel like some of my most special interviews have been people that worked with me at Nanny 911, people that worked with me at Springer, you know, somebody that had a Springer story, somebody that also is a daddy's girl that has a relationship like me, you know, kind of similar themes. Instead of just like accepting whoever comes your way, maybe whoever comes your way that's actually been a part of your life and wants to be a part of your tribe.
Tell us a little bit about Megawatts and, kind of how that led you to want to be your own boss. How long were you in the workforce and, what made you in that space say, man, look, I want to just work for myself. And what did that transition look like from the working space to being an entrepreneur of sorts and kind of working on your own?
It's been such a journey. Actually, the whole idea for Megawatts Productions was I worked as a post-production supervisor on Nanny 911 for 3 seasons. I don't even talk about that show as often as the Springer piece, but
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I really was more in charge of like supervising that all of the executives got the show delivered in the formats that they wanted. And I was in charge of like the voiceover sessions and a lot of the technical side of things. And I was managing, I don't know, I think there was like 10 or 15 editors on the show. I was managing payroll and color correction and online and all of the
Wow.
post-production aspects. And I honestly, when I got that job, I didn't even know how to edit. I didn't even know how to output a tape.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
guy who was running the post-production department at the time, shout out Rusty Austin, gave me like a shot. He was like, if you can produce the Jerry Springer show, he was like, you can do this. He was like, I will give you a printout of all the deliverables. And if you have a problem, call me. And I just love people like that, that are like, if you can do this, then you can do that. And I've had a lot of those opportunities in my career, which is amazing. And so after I worked on that show for 3 seasons, I met my husband and got married and decided to actually take an editing course.
Nice.
Mhm.
And one of my friends was a teacher, at the time, and she was doing a class on how to look at the brighter side of life, like how to find happiness. And so for one of my editing projects, I went around San Francisco pregnant with my husband filming me, just like going up to people and asking like, how do you find happiness, or what does happiness mean to
That's
you?
awesome. Yeah.
Like circa 2007. And I think just like a big pregnant woman is like unintimidating, and like everyone was willing to talk to me. And it was hysterical. I ran into like an opera singer and a clown, and the opera singer, of course, was like, "Happiness is singing," and she like sang in the middle of downtown San Francisco. And
That's cool.
yeah, and then a clown said, "Happiness is making other people happy." And then, I talked to a Mormon and my neighbor who her husband worked at NASA. And I just got like all these different perspectives on happiness and cut that together and made some in black and white and some in color, and like started learning how to stitch things together. And then people are like, "Oh, can you do that for me? I have a bat mitzvah coming up, or I have a birthday coming up." And,
Word of
because
mouth.
I showed this little reel that I created of the happiness thing for my friend. And then she ended up showing it at a nonprofit in town. And yeah, then people just started like asking me to do it for them. And then I was like, "Oh, wait, I can make money doing this." Yeah. So that's how it started.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Kind of the same thing with podcasting too. It was like, okay, if I create a quality show and show people that the sound is good and the picture is good, and I can do graphics and I know how to promote it and do a solid interview, then maybe somebody who also wants to start a podcast could use my help.
I love that. I think I've been feeling in some cases restricted creatively, right? So, I mean, do you feel like that freedom to create without the spectrum of another person kind of, locking down your ideas a little bit? Do you think that helped you in your content creation? Do you think that, opened up more avenues for you to just, give people engaging content?
That's such a great question. I have always needed somebody to hold my hand, and that's
Yeah.
exactly why I started my show with my dad.
Nice.
Even doing the podcast with my dad, just to give him his own show that he's always wanted, because, the tools are so easy now, is worth it for me.
Right.
That is a big enough why. Like, I've now interviewed my 96-year-old grandmother. I interviewed her when she was 94 before she had dementia. I got to interview Jerry Springer before he died. I got to
Really?
reconnect with Judge Alex, who I worked for on 5 seasons of that court TV show. So for me, getting to capture some of, my biggest chapters and some of the most important people in my life has been worth it enough for me. In fact, I encourage people to do that. I'm like,
Nice.
"Have you ever interviewed your dad? Or is there anybody in your family that's like your person that you would like to capture those stories?" So for me, my dad keeps me going. I've wanted to quit too.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that keeps me going is I collaborate with other podcasters who inspire me and who do things that I think are cool. There's this guy, I'll shout him out. His name is Jay Yao. He is the editor for the James Altucher podcast. And I
Nice.
love James Altucher. I always learn something from his show. I love Jay's editing style. I love his social media presence. And I saw on Twitter, I think he wrote something like, "Hey, if there's any brands that you love and you'd want to create a commercial with me, I'm looking to, add that to my repertoire." So I reached out to him and I was like, "Here's some of the tools I use. Like, let's make some commercials together and see if the brands would like it." So we ended up doing one for Headliner, because I love the Headliner app. I've, been making audiograms. I think it's a great, easy way to repurpose, and it's free. So we made them one and they loved it. And then I ended up interviewing Alyssa Craig from Headliner, and she's a daddy's girl and a horse girl from Kentucky. So that was really cool.
Wow.
That's
And
cool.
I did a commercial with, it's called, what is the name of it? Sorry.
You're good.
Queen Tulsi. It's a supplement. It's like ashwagandha and Tulsi, and it's like this supplement that I really like. And I just reached out to the brand and was like, "I actually love this. You want to do a swap with me where I'll like make you a commercial and you send me like 6 bottles of your stuff?"
Wow.
Cross promotion. Come on. We talk
So
about
I did that one for 6 months, and I interviewed the founder, and she's a mompreneur and into healthy lifestyle. So
love it.
I vibed with her brand and her product, and Jay Yao and I collaborated, just from a tweet that he did. So I think, I've also had singers on that there's this girl, she uses Podbean too, so I'm gonna shout her out.
Yeah.
Isolde Trachtenberg of the Creative Minds podcast.
Shout out.
She can speak, I think, like 7 different languages, and she can sing an opera. And I was like, oh my God, sing me something from your youth or sing me an opera song. And she did that. So I think just like mixing it up, like keeping the daddy angle, like having my dad weigh in on the, on all of these stories that I'm bringing on, but also finding talents, that complement
Yeah.
my life or
That's
things that
awesome.
I'm interested in,
I
people that you
love
can
it.
learn from.
I love it. Love it.
100%.
We always like to leave our audience with some advice, So in your whole process, you've already explained how you became an entrepreneur from a working space. You've already kind of broke down how you work technically wise. Just what is some advice? What are some things potentially that you would have maybe done differently when you first started, to give to new podcasters, people thinking of maybe this is the path that they want to go down? I mean, what would be something that you would give them as advice?
Oh man, there's so much advice. Don't, buy the big fancy gear. I'm sure people have said that before, but when my dad started, he was just using like the Apple
Pods.
little earbuds that go in your ear that have the little mic attached. And sometimes like if a guest wants to come on and, they don't have a microphone, I'll send them, they're like $18
Right.
just so they have just a little mic that they can use. Whatever you're comfortable using, use those tools. Like today we're recording on Skype. I actually used Skype like 7 years ago. You can use Zoom, you can use Riverside, you can use StreamYard, you can use Zencaster. I think my advice honestly would be is just to play with these toys and, call a sister, call a father, call an encourager, somebody who already sings your praises or somebody that you've had a great experience with that sees the good in you. So they'll bring that out in the interview and just practice.
Yeah.
You can do a solo episode, you can do an interview, you can have a guest host. I've actually had a guest host segment where somebody interviews me. You can go to live events and record a segment at an event. I've done that with my dad. My dad worked in the lighting industry for 40 years and he loves to go to the light fair. You can get a mic and record in your phone.
Yeah.
Just start, that's the advice I would give is
I love
the
it.
tools are there. Anyone can do it now. AI makes it so easy to edit with Descript or with Riverside.fm. I had a client, a healthcare client, that was having me produce their show for over 3 years, and they finally figured out how to do it themselves.
Right. Yeah.
It's a great one. Now that time is usually shrink down to about a year.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, they want, and two, another thing is, I have coached people where with a session or two, I can break down all of the places you can record, all of the places you can host, all of the microphones that I've used, and you can either do it yourself or you can pay somebody to help you do it. But if it is a dream of yours, talk to somebody who's doing it.
I love it. We always ask and implore those that are looking into the podcasting space to just find what motivates them, right? What inspires you, start there. And I think that's kind of the point you were getting at. And yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. And obviously, we would love for you to shout yourself out. Tell us anything you have going on. All of your socials, please plug them and, toot your own horn for a second.
Oh, you're so great. Yeah, my website is bettercalldaddy.com. You can find me on all social at Reena Friedman Watts. And something that I have going on is as an entrepreneur, I also help influencers with sponsorships around their events. And I am working on in an event coming up with a girl that I did an event with in 2019. Her name is Shauna Arnott. And we did like a Gary Vee event and I helped book a couple sponsors for that. And now she's working on a Richard Branson event this summer. So I'm really excited about that. And if you're interested, then reach out to me on social.
Come on. Give it up for our co-guest today. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love Podbean, have been with you guys the entire time I've been podcasting. And I really appreciate how you feature independent podcasters.
And we didn't pay her to say that, guys. This is just
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, What a great interview. And I love the fact that she was talking specifically about reaching out to brands or just like, scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Come on,
reach out to a brand. Maybe you like drinking. Oh gosh. I hate being put on the spot because I can't come up with like an example. Okay. You drink water, okay? Pick a water brand and go, hey, I like drinking this water. Send me 3 cases and I'll take a picture with it. They're going to send you those 3 cases. Hello. And, they say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Obviously, not every single one's going to go in, but if you don't shoot, it won't go in.
Her networking mind was at an all-time high, and I wouldn't even expect you to be where she's at.
Yeah.
If you're half of what she is. You could tell her mind was working in ways of like, what's my next opportunity? How can I build this bridge to this person? We love that, and we encourage you guys to continue to reach out to different people and just start to continue to build your base.
Yeah. And if you don't know where to start, look around you. The things that you use could potentially be free just because you like to create.
Yeah.
And that's all we have for today on Podbean Amplified. We hope that you take the notes. We hope that you take everything we say into consideration, and we will see you next Tuesday